Good afternoon, guys. Thanks for being here. I appreciate you guys being here. This helps me get my Instructor 2 stuff done. So this afternoon, we're gonna be doing a rope rescue class, specifically focused on confined space. So as far as safety concerns go, make sure we have our PPE, helmets and gloves. Probably try and refrain from using the extrication gloves if you can. Just if there's oil or glass in those, it's not good for the ropes. But obviously, communication is big on any incident that we have, but especially in rope rescue, because we're going to have to maintain that verbal communication and visual confirmation. So this afternoon, we'll be having Captain Wainwright and Captain Eller as our instructors. So yeah, I'll have them take it away. Anything else you want to cover on safety?
No, I think that's it. We won't be doing a lot of, high angle on rope type stuff today, but we'll get into some harnesses and we can do some simulated type stuff working here in the bay. Obviously, as far as helmets go, when we talk about ideally whenever we're doing any of our tech rescue stuff, we're wearing the rescue helmets. Fire helmets are not real conducive, especially if we take a fall on those with a big brim. They also get entangled and working in tight spaces. So those could be a little bit of a challenge. And then other than that, really just our Class D uniforms and a lot of the tech rescue stuff is sufficient. Wearing bunker gear is not something that we typically want to do in those environments unless we need to just for some sort of super cold out or whatever that limits our ability, or we can wear our black extrication gear if we need to. So just kind of make a judgment based on the space that we're going in. So,
Captain Eller, anything you'd like to add?
Stay hydrated.
Perfect.
there you go.
All right.
So what we'll jump into today is kind of going over the premise of what a confined space rescue would look like. As a department, we have not had a lot of people go through. As most of you guys know, we were working our way through getting a lot of technician level certified rope rescue personnel. Then from that, we're looking at being able to expand into the realm of trench rescue and confined space. But in the rescue environment, rope rescue typically is kind of your base level that then correlates across through to confined space because of the amount of rope work involved with that. In trench, you can't have a rope component to that. Same with swift waters. A lot of times there's a rope component to that. Structural collapse, same thing. So that rope rescue kind of falls across all of those other disciplines. So hopefully in the next couple of years, as we get the rope rescue stuff kind of up to speed and people on that, we'll start adding in some of these additional classes to improve our capability. From an equipment standpoint, we have what we need to do what would be considered a non-permit entry required confined space rescue. And when we talk about permit entry versus a non-permit entry, permit entry confined spaces are ones that have the potential for an IDLH component to them. So that could be just due to air quality in that confined space. So we'll talk about that here in a little bit. It can also be due to other hazards that exist in that confined space. So that would be risk of engulfment. So if we think about grain bins or bulk storage containers, and we have facilities like that. When we start looking at like our plastics places that we have here, they receive the plastic pellets in rail cars or tank cars that could be an engulfment hazard. They have hoppers in there, so if somebody's down working in one of those, that could be an engulfment hazard, very similar to grain bin. Not really qualified to be able to do that. If we have other hazards that would be uncontrolled in that environment, so those would be things like electrical hazards, high pressure gas lines, hazardous material lines. You think of a pit vault that's got a bunch of valving and piping running through, potential for confined space rescue in one of those environments. That would probably be off limits for us. The main thing that we don't have is ventilation equipment and respiratory protection for being able to work in a confined space. So in those instances, we have to be able to control those hazards, ventilate the space, and then potentially be able to work in what typically is going to be a supplied air respirator. So it'd be our face mask with a hose running to the outside, and then having a small escape bottle that if we needed it. So those would be things that if we get into a confined space rescue in that sort of an environment, we're gonna have to call in outside resources, and that's gonna be probably Kansas City or CJC to come in and support us in that type of an incident. We have had confined space incidents here, in just the last 2 to 3 years. The most notable, we had one up at St. Luke's East. This was a worker, they were putting in doing some work on some, wastewater collection or stormwater collection, so there was a big stormwater culvert. Had a cap on it, had a manhole at the top of it. The worker was going down to do some work. The ladder going down in there was formed into the concrete, so it was a rebar type ladder that was designed for entry. One of the rungs broke off of that. He took about a 10 to 15 foot fall down into the base of it, dislocated his knee. He was a big guy, incapacitated, inability to climb back out of the ladder. So we ended up setting up a rope rescue system to be able to extract him out of it. Had another incident that occurred in Fives District on A shift. This one was a guy who was also down in a concrete culvert. He was actually running a gas-powered saw down in there, concrete saw, and went unresponsive. Somebody, bystander, rescued him and got him out of there, so they ended up having a patient to deal with. They didn't have to conduct an actual rescue. They did find, though, on their investigation, after they got the patient taken care of, once they put a monitor down there, the carbon monoxide was about 400 parts per million. So lucky that whoever went in and got him out was able to do so quickly. Don't know exactly how they got him out, but that does point out the risk of what we find in a lot of confined space incidents is not only does somebody have an issue when it's atmospheric, but would-be rescuers making an entry, attempting to rescue somebody also become victims. Historically, firefighters were notorious for that. We've learned a lot through the years, but when we look in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you know, the first person goes down, the second person goes in to rescue them, they go down, the third person goes in to rescue them, they go down, and usually by number 4, we start scratching our head, going, maybe we don't want to go down there. But that is a risk and a hazard. So, you know, we're looking at what is a confined space? Anybody know by definitions?
Ideal H environment.
Okay, it could have an ideal H, but it doesn't necessarily have to. So we can have a confined space that's still non-ideal H, but that does. So limited means of egress, ingress or egress, so entry or exit points are limited. It is designed to be entered, but not designed to be continuously occupied. It may have walls or floors that diverge into an area that makes it difficult to get out of. So those are all kind of entry or definitions of a confined space, but primarily something that is truly designed for us to be able to go in, perform work, but not to constantly occupy, have limited access points to be able to get in and get out of, and may then present additional hazards in that environment. So crazy enough, you guys know I work for do ski patrol stuff, and I work for the other report. They have a super strict program on all of their listing and labeling of things as confined space, but literally in some of our lodges, there'll be a closet access space but a smaller entry point, kind of like a little attic scuttle that goes underneath the stairwell that could potentially be used for storage or need access. Those are labeled as a confined space, okay? Because they're limited entry and egress, not designed to be constantly occupied. So just by that, that's the definition of a confined space. So we look at that, we go, okay, so we identify what those are. Then, you know, entry into a confined space is defined as any point of our body crossing the plane that is the entrance to that. So if we're looking at a manhole cover on a storm drain out on the side of the street, and we have a kid who climbed down in there to get a ball out, and we, you know, can't get back out, that is a confined space by definition. And so we start to fall under a lot of OSHA regulations as to what we need to do to respond appropriately to that. The big thing is obviously identifying the hazards of that space. Okay, so what potential things in there could harm us? What's the number one thing we're most concerned about?
Air quality.
Air quality, that's number one. You know, and even when we look in a storm drain, what can we have in the storm drain that's gonna impact air quality?
Sewer gas.
Sewer gas. When we look at our 4-gas monitors, what gases do we, evaluate for? Carbon monoxide. Maybe a potential there, unlikely in those unless we have some sort of operating equipment somewhere, but carbon monoxide, what else? Okay, oxygen, do we have oxygen deficiency even in the stormwater drain? Absolutely, because if you have decomposing substances down there, which we typically do, they'll actually consume the oxygen and we create an oxygen deficient atmosphere. What's our other one that's in there? Hydrogen sulfide. Yeah, so hydrogen sulfide, so it'll have, and that's your typical kind of sewer gas, but also comes from curing concrete. So even in like concrete bolts and stuff like that, that is an off-gas product of that. And that's the reason that we have that on our monitor. People ask, we should get rid of that, but that's actually one of the things in the confined space we have to monitor for. Interesting thing about hydrogen sulfide, it smells like rotten egg, it's sulfur smell. But what's it do to you after you take a few breaths of it? It anesthetizes your senses. And so when you're like, oh, I smelled a little bit, but now that smell went away, it's not that it went away, it's numbed up your sense of smell to the point that you can't detect it. So just the importance of us always doing air monitoring. With our current monitors we have with the Dragers, we don't have a remote monitoring capability, meaning we don't have like an airline pickup tube we can drop down in there and monitor from the surface. I'm not sure if our new monitors are gonna have that capability. That was something I'd asked about for the Blackline.
They should, and Blackline actually were given a grant through the Mark region 2 years ago and received an area array.
Yeah.
So in the event that we have a confined space, especially if it's a long confined tunnel, whatever we're looking into, we can actually drop that area array in down there and start monitoring while we're building out our plan, the rescue plan.
Yep.
And then as we progress forward, we just bring our handheld monitor with us.
Yep. Yep. So we'll have that capability. Currently, in the back of the squad, we have some paint poles with an odd little mount on them. We can actually just stick our Dragers on those and at least just stick them down into or tie them on a rope and drop them down in. If anything alarms, that indicates that we have an issue that we're not gonna be able to make entry until that's ventilated or taken care of, and indication we need greater team resources to come into. Then as we get to the point of making entry, every person who goes down should have a monitor on them throughout the entire thing and monitor. If you get anything alarming, it's time to evacuate that space, especially where we're not equipped to be able to operate on air in a confined space. Okay, so that's kind of our definitions of our confined space and some of our decisions that we're going to make as far as our entry into that confined space. Now, does a confined space require a tripod to make an entry into? No, not necessarily. It's gonna depend upon the space. If we can put a ladder down in there, if there's an existing ladder down in there, and a lot of these confined spaces that are designed for entry, if they're a vertical entry, they're gonna have some sort of a fixed ladder to be able to get down in. So we can use that for our access. However, one of the things that we want anytime we make a confined space is a way for us to rescue or retrieve our personnel should they become incapacitated, so we can do a non-entry type rescue. So what's that gonna require? When we talked about PPE earlier, we said, we want tech rescue helmets, we want gloves as a minimum, may consider our black gear, or at least long sleeves, especially if there's things that, may cut our arms up and that type of thing in the environment. But what else do we need PPE wise? Okay, safety glasses wouldn't be a bad idea.
Harness.
Okay, harness, we wanna be in a harness, and we wanna have a tagline on us. And by tagline, that's gonna be one of our rescue ropes that is tended at least while we go down and tied off. So it doesn't have to be set up in a lowering system or set up as a belay system as we're climbing down. But it's a retrieval line for us that if that person becomes incapacitated down there, we can set up some form of a haul system and we can get them out, okay? So, that's gonna be kind of a minimum for our entry. So, On the squad, we have, we're going to 11mm rope on a lot of our tech rescue stuff on the squad. We're still using 13mm or 1/2 inch on our trucks. But this, red and blue bag here, those are 200 foot. If you can use different colors for each of your different rescuers, it just helps you kind of identify as you're making an entry, what rope they're on, to be able to retrieve them out. And then, even without having the tripod there, as long as we have an anchor point, which could be a truck, it could be a structural member within a facility, whatever, that we can use as an anchor point, and our ability to set up a haul system to get them drugged back out is basically what we want. Once they get down in and kind of at the distance or as far as where they are gonna be in there, we can tie that rope off, and just leave it secured off to that object where they can't travel any further. They're gonna need to let you know that they need some extra room for movement, okay? And typically, we'll just go to the dorsal attachment point. If we have to drag somebody out, that leaves them hanging, airway open, in a vertical position is gonna be easiest. Not having a tripod set up, we'll be able to haul them up to about that entry point. If we think about like a manhole going over an edge, it's probably just gonna take some physical force with some people to get them the rest of the way out. We have our tripod set up. We'll look at some different ways that we can use the Aztec to put that artificial high point in there as we, okay? So that's kind of the basis of what we're looking at as far as making an entry. And then obviously we have some patient packaging components, and medical care and those types of things that we would be providing if we need to get that patient. It may be one of those situations where we're able to climb down a ladder, get to a patient, but the patient needs to be packaged or they're incapacitated. They can't get themselves back out due to injury or medical condition or whatever the case may be. We may set up, get them packaged, hauled out, and then we're able to just climb right back out, okay? So let's look at, I think probably first thing is let's go ahead and set the tripod up, and we'll get that set up. We'll go over a few things with the tripod. Then we'll move into patient packaging, and that's kind of easiest if we have the tripod set up. We can put somebody in that patient packaging. We'll go over to Aztec, and then we'll start doing some stuff, so. So with our tripod, as we set it up, obviously we want to get this artificial high directional or this high direction point as high as we can, for whatever evolution we're going to use. We may want to go for an industrial area with the height of it. Where it's set up right now, by the time we call somebody up, we'll probably barely anywhere from the plane of whatever we're in. So the higher we can set it up, the wider that base is, then that gives us a lot more operational capability for that. Downside of that is, we need to hook all of our rigging that we need up at the beginning of the scenario, because we're not gonna be able to reach it once we get up there, okay? So as far as before we extend this on out, so the way we extend this is through pulling the pins on the legs, and we go up and we'll look here in a minute. There's a letter chart on the strength of the tripod over here, and then there's corresponding letters as we get this extended up, so we can take a glance at that and kind of see that we're within our operational capabilities of what we're wanting to lift with that. So we have in the orange rigging kit there, let's grab that real quick. We have a specific 4-to-1 haul system that was designed to go with this tripod. It's just one of potentially soft ground, so we need to look at where we're set up with this, and we can set these legs up offset. So, you know, if we're not on a paved level, nice concrete surface like this, you know, one leg needs to be longer to kind of get this tripod centered over what we can set it up in that capacity. We can also put these legs down, in soft ground, put the pointing side of the legs down, which will kind of dig in a little bit, or, if we have like some rebar, we can drive that rebar down through the hole and we can stake it into place as well to keep them from kicking out and moving around. Resultant forces, when I talk about resultant force, what is that? Okay, it's basically the net of all the forces that we put on the system. And so one of the things we have to be careful with is that our resultant forces stay within the footprint of the leg of the tripod. So if I have this hanging here and I'm pulling way over this way, that resultant force, when we look at a pulley, it's going to be basically a split between the load and the haul line of the pulley. That resultant force would be falling outside of the corners of this, and what we got for this unit. That essentially comes through when we're using a haul system like that. So, this is where one of the ways is, we have a
I have audio issues being so far. Move it.
now, we have really don't have any friction device, mechanic type friction device like what we would have. Talk about how we can adjust that and then we can lower that down. Again, this is a 4-to-1 system, so there's not, shouldn't be a lot of friction on here as we lower down. Just have to be cognizant, if we hold this open and let go of this, they're gonna bring all the way down. Okay? Pros and cons of this system is this puts a lot of weight down into here, and there's that potential for entanglement. You know, as simple as this pulley getting flipped over like this, can throw a lot of friction or kind of really screw this system up. So that's one of the downsides. I'm not gonna go through a bunch of the rigging options today with the tripod, but there are a lot of different ways we can rig up a tripod for, various different aspects. Now, one of the things I always like to do, when we rig our tripod up, is I like to put an Aztec system and hang an Aztec system up in here as well. What that does is that gives me another movable point, that we can use for various different things. We'll kind of go through some of those. So we should have an Aztec and a rigging kit over there. We'll go ahead and hang that up here today as well. Might, I'm not sure what's in there. so, this is our Aztec kit, we can mess with these just a little bit on some other stuff. The way I typically like, we know this has like a 4-to-1 or a 5-to-1, I like to set this up in this 4-to-1 system, so the haul line is fixed up at the top. That gives us a more normal haul system. Then, and it's been a while since maybe we reviewed, but the Prusix, you can use a Prusik on either one of the pulleys, one or the other. Always recommend in this kind of configuration using the Prusik on the lower pulley, because I wanna have that within my reach. As we extend this up and make this taller, I can hold that open and I'm set to go that way. If I did this pulley up here, this gets up out of my reach and I haul something with it, I have no way to reach that Prusik to be able to release it. But as long as I never let that Prusik get out of my reach, I can raise and lower this as needed. So having that on there just gives me the option of having a second reading point if we need to add something into the system. It'll also give us the opportunity to manage our belay line or even a haul line if we have to do a retrieval on one of our victims. It gives us some options to be able to run through that, and I'll kind of show that here in just a little bit on what we can use that haul line for. So I just leave that set up to have our options. So once we're set up there, let's go ahead and extend this up quite a ways, so it gives us a little bit more room to be able to work with. And then the last thing we'll need to do once we get this set up, and we always need to do that with the tripod, is we need to hobble it.
Do you want to use the chain and the strap, since we don't have 3 straps?
Let's just do the chain on this one. Yeah, or unless you want to just unzip the other tripod and we have the extra strap on there.
You want that?
Yeah, let's do the
Straps
straps.
are over here. The one more. Alright, there. Which way are you going? You on left, I'm on left, yeah. A little more? Put it a little bit. Like E.
So as that's getting up out of our reach, that number I already did it, what's something we always need to do when we're reaching it? So we're getting out of reach. Checking the gear beam.
Yeah.
Off.
So you guys can see it over on this side just a little bit, but at the top of this tube where the head, hits against this, one of the risks with these kind of aluminum tubes, if we don't hobble this in, is those legs will start to spread apart, and that's actually a point that you can cause a failure if this gets overloaded. What it'll do is actually pinch that aluminum tube, and it can cause it to crack where it's bolted in. So what I typically do is I start by kicking all the legs all the way out. Then as we attach the hobbles, we want to pull them in just a little bit. So what we want is that head to kind of be free floating up there, so it's not putting a lot of outward pressure on those tubes where they can spread. So let's hook these, so these could easily come off right here. These don't carry a lot of weight, but let's hook them kind of more like we have. Yeah, and it actually may be a benefit the way Kovac rotated his legs to point out, that makes it a little bit easier to hobble there. Come on. What else? Do you want to rotate it? That's right. Never too late, till somebody's hanging on it. Okay, let's snug those up, so these should all be just a little bit snug.
Just pull it.
That's plenty, not quite that much. good there. And again, that's just mainly to let that head kind of float up there to where it's not,
It looks crooked.
yeah, let's,
Try this one, let's let the night over here.
okay, yeah, let's let some slack and kick that out. Okay, everybody happy with that setup? Yeah, okay, so let's, a couple people in some harnesses, so we have harnesses set up over here, and so a couple harness volunteers, and we'll just do kind of a demonstration of how we would set up a tag line, how we can send somebody down into the hole, and some options we have there. What's that? Yeah, you wanna do that? I'll cover it. Yep. These are, new harnesses too, that you maybe have not seen yet. Okay, yeah, oh yeah, we use them in class a little bit. So, if you guys wanna come over, Connor's gonna review these harnesses real quick, and just kind of the, how we get suited up in these. These are similar to the ones we carry on the trucks, but slightly different. So they're a petrol, they have similar kind of set of buckles. However, these are designed to be able to also ascend the rope with, so they have an ascender built in the chest. It just makes the way you put the shoulder straps on slightly different.
So these are Pestle Astros, they're very similar to, like Captain Ware said, to the other ones we have, and the original ones are still in the truck.
They are, and we're gonna keep those, so it's a
Yeah.
combination of both.
So the difference between those, the main difference you'll see, like I said, there's an ascender built in here, but on the other harnesses, when we would come over, we would lock in with the carabiner up front. That no longer happens, we have a fixed point here, so we actually have our adjusters on the side. So you're gonna clip in, kinda like you have your leg straps instead of running the carabiner to the front, which you wanna make sure when we do use the harnesses we use off the trucks, we're never going carabiner to hard linkage, we actually go into the little soft webbing strap below. Hard links tend to twist, it can cause component failure pretty quickly. So with these, they're kinda like our air packs, you wanna make sure that they're always stowed as far open as possible, and you bring the fitment to yourself, you're not trying to squeeze in to actually fit the harness. They're designed to fit pretty much all sizes. Once you get around 6'6" and a little bigger than that, you may have issues with the shoulder straps, but up until that point, they are fairly comfortable. So, on this side, on your left shoulder, you've got the release, just like the leg straps. Pull it through. We're gonna start going through the legs first, so you step through it and bring it up to your waist, and you'll go ahead and cinch the waist when you get there. So like the other harnesses, we've got leg loops that help form your seat, and then the actual waist strap. So as we bring this up, just like with the air packs, we'll go over the waist, and try to get that cinch first, so it sits
You gotta
normally.
get your shoulder strap out from under, you gotta take it off.
Oh, under your leg, yep. It's gonna go around your leg.
Yeah, you're gonna have to
Go all the way down. There you go.
You get slack on these, on the upper side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we're at.
So when you guys put harnesses on, the recommended kind of order of operation here, before you start doing all that stuff, recommended order of operation before I even usually throw my shoulders up on is I'm gonna pull my harness on, I kind of bend over in this position, and I go for waist strap, and I want waist strap needs to be sitting down over your pelvis, so lower than what you are right there, so, you want that to be nice and snug. If it's not, what happens when you end up hanging in that harness is that harness will slide up and it'll actually get up under your rib cage. It can start to affect your diaphragm. It's gonna make you very uncomfortable very quickly. So that's kind of the number one. Then the number two is I'm gonna go for my leg loops. And I wanna get my leg loops snug. And I want them snug tight around my thighs, but not necessarily in the back. This harness should be comfortable to go into a sitting position and have your leg loops supporting under your legs, but not pulling tight up into your cheeks, okay? So that should be pretty comfortable there. Then once we put the shoulder harnesses, the shoulder straps on, We wanna snug those to a comfortable position, but by comfortable, we should be able to reach above our arms. It shouldn't feel like it's bending us over. We can reach up, we can work. These harnesses are designed for people to work in for 8 hours a day and be fairly comfortable with that. Now, once you get into a suspended position, you may find that once you suspend, that you wanna do some adjustments for comfort. And a lot of times that's shoulder straps. You'll feel once you start hanging that it's kind of pulling away. You may wanna tighten those in a little bit, release them out a little bit. The second thing is if you're using these in a fall protection, or in this instance, we're gonna have you hooked into the dorsal as you descend down. If for some reason you take a fall and you're being suspended in that harness, especially from the dorsal position, this is the position where you can start to develop the harness-induced syndrome pretty quickly. And what that does, that cuts off blood flow to your legs, you start to build up lactic acid, you start feeling kind of anxious being in your harness, but not being able to put your feet on something creates a problem to get that pressure off. A couple things you can do in the harness with that, at that point, is tighten up the straps that's back here on the back. That actually adjusts that leg strap back a little bit and can improve some of your femoral blood flow. If you have anything else on your harness or a loose section of rope, something that you can stand on. So in industrial environments, a lot of guys wear, it's a small set of foot loops that's in a little Velcro pouch on each side. And if they take a fall and they're suspended in their harness, they're taught to deploy those loops, they hook together, and you can stand up in them. And then once you can stand up in them, you can just wiggle and move around, you can support your weight, so you're not completely in the harness as long as you're not knocked unconscious or unresponsive from whatever reason you fell from. If you have other things, if you've got a short piece of webbing or whatever, clip, carabiner, tie it off short, you can make your own foot loops if you're suspended for a period of time. And most of the stuff we do, where we're on a rescue system being hauled or lowered, we're not in an independent location where we get stuck hanging from our harness for a period of time.
One thing on your dorsal attachment, whenever you go to slap this thing on, this is where having a buddy to help you put this on goes a long way. You wanna make sure that this attachment point isn't so high. If you're up here and you go into hanging because you fell, this is going to take all of your weight and it's going to be hitting you right in the back of the head. So when we look at placement for where we want this dorsal point to be, you want it to be in line with your scapular ridge. So on the back of your shoulder blades, there's a little hard point, a ridge. It's right about here. That's where we want this to be. That way, if he does get loaded into that, it takes the forces out and away from his head. It's not knocking him forward like this. He still has the ability to move his head around and turn. And he's not taking a shot load with the back of the head either. But that's pretty hard to see and do by yourself. You'll get used to the comfort zone once you put these on a bunch of times. But having a buddy check that is very important.
Yep. Okay, perfect. Let's grab, we should have our helmets, I think on the other side above the wheel well, I believe. We'll throw guys in helmets over there. Let's go over a couple other new pieces of equipment that, unless you guys took the tech rescue class, you haven't seen yet. So, one of our new pieces of equipment, we've got two of them here in the reading kit on the squad. These are called a Petzl ASAP. What these are is basically a self-belay device, or an auto belay device. So these are used extensively in the high angle and industrial and rope access. So we know that when we do anything where we're supported by a rope, so in a high angle rescue or vertical rescue environment where we're suspended by the rope, going into a confined space where we're suspended by a rope, we do everything on a 2-rope system. So we have redundancy through that system, so if one portion of that system fails, the other portion will capture that. In the past, or in a lot of instances when we're working in a high angle environment, we have a main line that's a hull lower system. We've done things such as that tandem Prusik belay system in the past. We know that takes a little bit of kind of operator finesse to be able to manage. Or we've done that mirrored system where we have two lowering systems that are identical or two haul systems that are identical. And as long as we have that progress capture, that auto progress capture like with the MPD, then that's probably our highest level of safety. This Petzl ASAP, if you think about it, it's kind of similar to a tandem Prusik belay in the fact that it's going to capture the rope at a certain speed of fall. And it is self-managing. If it's on you and you're ascending ropes, it can be on a fixed rope and it's just going to travel up and down with you. But if you have a mainline failure, this one is going to capture. We can also use this in a fixed belay position. So in that instance, in the lowering scenario where we have a rope feeding out, it'll feed out, but if it accelerates to a certain speed, it's going to capture it. As we have somebody coming up a rope, we're going to have to tend it pretty much like we would tandem Prusiks and basically just pull that rope through it. Same thing though, if they fall, it's going to capture.
Does that work with both sides ropes?
It does. So this one works with both sides of ropes. So we have 11 millimeter ropes on the squad currently. These are all labeled that it's a 7/16, which is an 11 millimeter rope. Everything that we have on the trucks and pumpers is a 13 millimeter half-inch rope. This is also a NFPA G rated rope, so it has the same strength as what the larger ropes have. It's just as fibers have modernized and rope construction techniques, we're seeing a transition. It's actually, you can still get the 13 millimeter ropes from all the manufacturers, but not quite all the features with them. And so you'll frequently hear this referred to as G11 rope, meaning it's a G rated by NFPA standard, but it's an 11 millimeter. Okay, kind of the trend as to where everything's going in the tech rescue world. So same strength, quite a bit lighter. We can carry a lot more of it or a lot less weight, especially if we're doing a tower climb or whatever. So works really well. So the Petzl ASAP in the confined space environment, this works awesome for our taglines. So we can put a Petzl ASAP over and we'll set up an anchor point off the back of the pumper. That'll be our anchor point for our taglines, and that can be our belay line. As we're lowering our person down, we can just leave them hooked up to this Petzl ASAP. It'll allow them to feed rope out while they're moving around down in the confined space. But if they take a fall or anything fast happens on it, it's gonna lock up. And then we just have to have the ability to build a haul system to be able to retrieve them out if they're not hooked up to our main haul system, okay? So to load the Petzl ASAP, this might be one you guys might want to come a little closer and we'll have everybody actually go through this here in a sec. Okay, so we actually have this hooked into him. And then we're going to set this up. So to load this, it's got two levers on here. You have to pull both of those levers back and pull it in this configuration to open it up. And then up is going to be towards our anchor point. I believe this is correct. Nope, other way. So, yeah, towards our person here. This is setting it up in a fixed anchor point. If this was a fixed rope, this could also attach to him here and just run up and down a fixed rope. And then that up is going to point towards the anchor point. So the way this works is, in this configuration, this is going to allow him to just cruise along. But if he falls or moves quickly, it locks up and it grabs a hold, okay? And it's just it's a speed clutch mechanism that comes apart. Now, once it's locked, it stays locked. I just have to unroll that a little bit. So I have to get this wheel to roll a little bit in here. And now it's gonna run free again for me, okay? So we can literally hook this into an anchor point back there at the truck. We can lower him down with this. He can get down in the bottom. He can move around all that he wants, and this is going to self-feed out, but if at any point he moves too fast or takes a fall, it's gonna lock up on him that quickly. So it really limits that force of the fall, and it's gonna stay locked until we get the load off of that.
So it's almost like a fancy or crucifix,
Yep,
basically.
yep, basically,
So
so.
it's the same front.
Yep, yep. So this one is an ASAP lock, and you'll notice that this has a lock mechanism on it. If you wanted to lock this voluntarily for some reason, then you can just click that lock button and it's locked in that configuration. It'll still ratchet up that way, but it'll stay locked this way. We don't necessarily use that a whole lot in our configurations, but if this is on you and say I'm rappelling or I'm traveling up a rope and then I'm gonna be in a fixed position for a while, so if this is hooked to my back, it has a tendency to hang down low. Now, if I took a fall on it at that point, then that's gonna be pretty dramatic. So with that fixed back here, when I get to a position that I'm gonna be for a while, I can take up the slack, I can hit the lock button, and it's gonna hang up there high with me. That's also good if you're working off of something really big and you have rope blowing around. Rope blowing around can cause that rope to feed out and build up a bunch of slack in it, but if you hit that lock position, it'll keep that rope from automatically feeding out when you're in a fixed position, okay? This has a shock absorber pack on it. So this is similar to what you have with a lot of your fall protection when we work with like lobster claws and those types of things you see in the industrial setting. So if he takes a very hard fall on this, it may cause this shock pack to expand out. What a shock pack is, you can kind of see just a little bit, is just a whole bunch of webbing. It's a length of webbing sewn together, and it's sewn together with light stitching in there. And what that's designed to do is under progressive load, those stitches break and allow it to slowly deploy out and absorb the shock load. So it may not deploy completely with a hard fall on it, but if we see that this pack, if this white is extended out, that means that pack has been deployed and should no longer be in service, but it's a shock absorber pack. These are designed, this particular shock absorber pack is designed to be appropriate for a two-person load. So we can use this as a belay in a two-person rescue type scenario. So if we're going down and doing a pick-off or we're tending a litter and all that kind of stuff, this can be on one line and suffice for your belay point on that line, okay?
What's the reason?
On the cat room again. Because this still is force limiting and has shock absorber pack that will blow out and absorb that force. Yep. It also doesn't pinch as hard as what the Gibbs does because this will grab the rope.
Yeah.
But it doesn't progressively squeeze down as it gets harder loaded. So in the worst case scenario, we know this is Kern mantle rope. 80% of the strength is in the core of the rope, 20% on the sheath. You could potentially cause a bit of a de-sheathing on here. But if you take a fall of that extent, this rope should be taken out of service and destroyed anyway. So it could de-sheath, but it won't crush the core and cause core failure like a Gibbs will.
But as we've seen in our class last year, you can hang two rescuers off of two strands.
Yeah.
Of the
Yes, yeah, that's right, I forgot we did that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the ASAP, we'll let everybody kind of rotate through and we start doing a couple of scenarios, kind of just mess with this. Now, the thing I will say on this is if we are using it in a haul system, so if we set this up and we're lowering our guys down, they're just gonna lower out down into there and we can leave this as their tag line. When they start coming back up, you can just kind of manually have somebody go take slack up with that, or you can run that, it's not ideal in this one, you can run it through another carabiner or through a pulley, and you can kind of pull it up that way as well. Again, you wanna kind of be best to tend that out a little bit, but you'll see people, hold that there as my anchor point, you'll see people basically run this through, and I may hold this in this setting and take up slack as he's coming up towards me, if something happens. Whoa, sorry. If something happens, my anchor point failed. If something happens, it'll grab and just like the crucifix, just let it go and let it grab itself. Okay?
It wasn't a bouncer.
Sorry, it wasn't a bomb-proof thing, should have backed that one up. Anything else on the ASAP?
No, I'm not
Anything?
doing any ascending stuff today, so.
Yeah. Okay. So, that's the ASAP. If we're using this for our tagline, what we need to always keep in mind over here, though, is we need, still some way to be able to haul a person out if they become incapacitated and pretty easily and quickly set up. So with that, typically just a 3-to-1 type haul system is what we're gonna have set up. Or even so much so that we have some form of a progress capture and a Petzl ASAP that we can slap, or not a Petzl ASAP, a Aztec system we can slap on and just use as a piggyback and we can haul whoever up. Would work appropriately. That's a rescue scenario at that point. You may just be hauling them up on that single line, and that's what'll work. Okay. Let's go through. You want to run through our clutch real quick? The clutch is our other option. We can have this set a clutch, a precision, and pulley for a 3-to-1.
So the clutch is another progress capture device, kind of like the MPD, came out shortly after we got ours, but it is pretty remarkable. It's a great little tool. We utilized these pretty heavily last year in our tech rescue course, and the guys are gonna go through that this week. We'll do the same. Made by CMC. So the way we load this one isn't too dissimilar from the MPD in that you have to open the plate in the gate, right? It also has photos to direct you, so it's fireman proof, tell you how to get your thing, or at least fireman resistant. You can still load things correctly. So as you open this plate up, it does have a 2-click system to make sure it doesn't apparently open by accident. So you press this button and it pushes over once, you press it again, now it's open. So if you look at it, the cam operates with this lever on the side. This is in the lock position when it's down, in line with the carabiner. So this is pinched off. Your rope would run through here, and that's not going to move anywhere, right? As we open that, the cam will shift over. See how it's moved to the right? And then the farther over we go, that's just for lowering and letting progress out. So when we load it, if I'm going to be lowering or going down into a system, the up is going to our anchor, like it does with the ASAP. And then the other end is going to run out to the side here. It's pretty hard to flip this around and get it bent over this way, but you can. Just make sure it's paid behind this little eyelet. And from this point, like we talked about, this is locked off. So that cam is pushing aggressively on this. It's not going to allow it to move anywhere. You'll even have a positive feedback loop there with the click. You pop this loose. We run it around here. As you're opening this, you will feel it click right there. You can even hear it. That just tells you that you've opened your cam a little bit. And now as I push it down a little further, it will loosen. Hold on for a second. And we can control the speed of descent simply by pulling down on this handle. Now, when we're talking about lowering through on things, this one does have a panic-proof device in it. So if we're lowering and I hit it too hard, it's going to lock itself off. If I rip all the way down on it, it's not going to let you drop 30 feet. It's going to automatically stop itself. And that's a speed of the rope kind of thing. You can get moving pretty quick on them, but if you panic and pull it open all the way, it's locked. So you have to move all the way back up past that position to unload the system and allow it to run once more. As we use it for progress capture, you can hear the cam rationing in there. That's all this is. Pulling it up, bring it to the side. When it's in this fully locked position, remember that cam's shifting over, so it's making a lot of pressure and friction on the rope. If you have it over here though, we're in danger of losing the system. So leaving it right there, slightly kicked out, is going to allow that to move fairly freely, as opposed to in the full lock, where it's much harder to pull. So we just barely pick it out, picking up our slack. If we need to stop for anything, just click it and lock it. So one of the cool things about the clutches too is that these can work in a tandem system. So when we look at doing tandem belays, lowering, we have our belay line, we can set both of them up in series together. one in line, right next to it. We would then load that one. And now, were we to have a second line run through here, we would have one to our load and one would be our belay line. We can control the descent at the exact same time, and it's no more watching somebody else and hoping that we're both going at the same speed. I can operate both of these clutches with the single hand. And the same thing, if you panic on those, it's gonna lock off. If I need to close down, just a soft gentle movement right there. But both lines will run concurrently, and they're actually designed, as you see with carabiners with a twist in them, to lay flat against each other to limit that space that's required. So one person can run this, which guarantees that we're not gonna have that kind of offset lowering that we have all probably experienced if you've been on the system.
The one thing that's recommended if we're doing this type, and this is an ideal setup, you know, the number one failure in tech rescue when accidents occur, it's a human-related failure. It's an improperly tied knot, it's a non-closed carabiner, or it's us holding the descent device open and allowing a load to run free from us. So as the redundancy in this, while one person can operate this, it's always recommended to have a second person back here who's just tailing this line. And so, you know, this first person's in this position right here, controlling both of these. Second person is back here, and you tell them their job is to keep the lines feeding straight, which is true. You don't want those lines getting twisted up as you're coming out of two different rope bags coming through. But their job is to basically run those two lines. But if for some reason he has a failure up there, and really the only way this fails is if you hold it open and let go of, and let it free run. You know, if you panic and pull back, it's gonna lock out. If you let go of it, it should close and lock. But people will have a tendency, they're holding that position and they start burning their hand as it's going through fast. And instead of just letting go or pulling that panic, they try to manage it there. By having the second person back here, all they have to do is pull back and you're gonna break on everything. So that's that redundancy, is having that second person, but allowing one to operate those two together works really smooth. Eventually, the goal is to hopefully move to these across the entire department and replace our MPDs with those, or at least pull MPDs back here. Now, one key to point out, and they're kind of color coded, and this is true through almost all of the CMC equipment. You'll notice that these are gray. Gray means they're designed for 11mm rope. Red is designed for 13mm rope, and the two aren't interchangeable. So we don't want to put our 11mm rope in our MPDs that's on our truck kits, and our 13mm rope won't actually fit in these or run through these. So they are specific to rope size, which is part of the challenge as we go through and transition equipment over. I think ultimately the goal is through the next few years as we hit our replacement cycles, start replacing all of our rope with 11mm and going to 11mm clutches at that time, kind of progressively, hopefully in a couple different ways. So MPDs were awesome when they came out, and literally a few months after we went through all the process to get these chatter started and the clutches became available, but we didn't even know about them at the point we got all the MPDs approved, so. Okay. So, let's take a break. Lucky for you guys in the harnesses, you got to harness up and then take a break. When we come back, let's take a break. When we come back, let's just set up a couple, just little simulated kind of haul lower with what our belay line is and talk about how we would manage the belay line and do a retrieval. Then the next step we'll look at is we'll get the spec pack out. We'll talk about doing patient packaging with the spec pack. We'll package up a couple different patients with the spec pack. We'll look at the new traction splint that we're trialing. And then from there we can just run through a couple breakdown and set up evolutions with that kind of stuff and get everybody's hands on it.
So 104, let's be back at 114.
Sounds good.
10-minute increments.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did I send out the 3D printed handle?
Oh, yeah, those are cool. Yeah, there's a bunch of the teams that are using them now.
Almost like lemonade. It'll be okay. It's a lot. It is a lot. But if you don't practice it, it falls out. Yeah. I think that is, I couldn't think of the word Beckett until just now.
Well-
Attachment point.
Well, it's like doing the same thing with the, like which direction the, ASAC is when you're doing it in a fixed position. I do so much with it on my harness, like ascending or just climbing towers and stuff like that.
Drop it. Expensive.
$13,000.
No.
No, okay, all right,
But it's been,
no, okay.
So you have
But-
Michael's for it?
Yes,
Where's your,
yes. Hey, first, all right?
Trend center.
Yeah.
Really weird. It was. We were all sitting there watching the movie.
I'm the only engineer at 6P that has yet
Being the preferred cell.
definite fuel tank, so.
Knock on some wood.
Yeah, I know.
to be fair, when John opened it, they also said,
Yeah. So I said I'm the only engineer right now. That has yet to do it.
So.
Anything amount, could have been something else.
Okay, Bob with the other.
What's that?
Traction spline. Put it on there and over there. My buddy got his work there, he's also they're a little aggressive on the knuckle padding.
Yeah.
Not terrible, they're still stiff. The CMC ones I got, so it's got a full leather and it runs across this knuckle. It is so rigid I can't actually bend that index finger very well. Those are kind of cool for $20 though. Yeah, okay. So Foster usually does that. Yeah, they're aggressive. Mechanics work, man.
These are my page, you know. For dexterity and.
Yeah. $20.
These are the actual leather ones.
Oh, they are really.
Yeah, they're real leather, so they're about 32 or so, but they last a long time, so.
Looks like it. These are a little bit thicker. Mm-hmm. It'll wear down.
I wouldn't call in, I'm just not
Get
sure.
some good sweat and grind.
And actually for rubber stuff, we
and then I purchased the city.
just the silicone.
You do the first one, fire.
Oh, yeah.
You can tie and untie knots with those, they're, you know, you can buy a 12-pack of them for $20 or $30.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Are you guys the 16th of the class next week at all, or is that all 10?
It's gonna be Tim and all their instructors, I mean, I'll be out there, I put in for logger or something, conference, I don't know if I'll get selected for that, but I'll be out there as kind of department liaison
Yeah.
for the entirety of it, is the plan, original plan, so it was supposed to be out of town. Fire captain, yeah, it was the fire department, so. Yeah, so, we'll see what happens with that, but, yeah. Yeah, Wednesday or Thursday should be. I haven't really, haven't necessarily identified a good off-site location to be in nature. I've looked at a little bit of stuff up in Jacomo. There's some bluffs up along like the Shelter House 10 and group camping areas up there that we could maybe do like some elevated high lines down to kind of, you know, a distant evacuation, do some high line work, I don't know.
There's not really a good spot on, between the towers, but even then.
You can do between the towers, cause we have anchor points at the top of both of them, so we can actually set up our,
That would be fun, too.
yeah, high lines across there, so.
Traverse the towers.
Yeah. So we ought to, actually, it's kind of a fun idea, we could set up like a multi-stage scenario where you have to ascend up one of the towers and then do, your high line across the towers and then your tower descend down.
We'll do that full day scenario,
So,
maybe.
it'd be cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah. And then we'll have the state trailer for almost a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because our test isn't until April
23rd.
So we'll have the trailer here that entire time.
Hopefully we can, that's, it's pretty good. SSG. It's done, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By you, the diddler? Andy's nickname.
Today, tomorrow, and no more next to it. Yeah, my 6 in, and then like.
Awesome.
7.
All right.
Inappropriately.
I was lucky to get it. Yeah, Cole, I was driving.
Really?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, God. Do you have liver failure or something? Went straight to the casino and started smoking and gambling. That's the life right there. Oh, wonder why.
Homeless or?
No.
Oh, sorry. Did you drop all that in your hair?
He was so mad.
She just drunk and needed some company?
She didn't call me right back. Her boyfriend is.
So did she go to the hospital?
Okay.
Jamie, you got your.
I want to be transferred to that.
All she would just say at the end, she's really, Good. Thank you all for participating. Kind of my fault, so. Well, not kind of, it is my fault.
We're aware.
I know.
Andy, how was you able to cover the cost of separate curriculum?
Seriously? You buying dinner?
I didn't say that, but I wouldn't be opposed. I appreciate you guys.
Dude, don't give me an hour. Yeah.
Live, laugh, those are bad.
Yeah.
We had run them.
Exactly.
A handful of times.
We got good hands, man.
Slow down, there was like a lot of people. Consistent on flirting with that.
Always good one of our friends.
Yes.
I mean, you've been seeing some of the equipment in the book, but maybe haven't had hands. I appreciate you. Remember that? Yeah.
I've heard that before.
I appreciate
Never
you.
seen it.
Ooh, that big knob? Yes. Dude, I need to go.
Yeah, not this Monday, next Monday.
Thanks, buddy.
Alright.
Yeah.
Clean up a little bit here.
Here shortly.
Yeah. Brought it up here from the sevens a long time ago, and then I know where to put headquarters and.
Not allowed to attach to walls yet.
All right.
Tyler, what's the number one rule of rotating on the ground? Don't step on it. There it is.
Don't step on the road.
Love it.
That's a safety issue.
Yep.
Yes.
Because you can get dust and debris and
Drives into the sheet,
gravel.
which can bind up mechanisms and degrade the integrity of the sheet. I haven't authorized it.
Thank God your dad was helping you build that. Yeah. Otherwise, it probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I sent everything out. Okay,
Oh, come on.
so what we're gonna look at is, a new piece of equipment that we've added within the last few months, and haven't done a whole lot of training on yet, within the department, but what, this is called a spec pack, is the name of the device, and it's, it can be used in a lot of various different configurations. Ideal for confined space rescue, and how we can lift and hoist and move people with that, but it can be used in vertical rescue as well, so, you know, if we're thinking off the side of a tower or whatever like that, it's a useful piece of equipment. Nice thing about this is it does provide, immobilization of the upper portion of the body. It's not as heavy nor as bulky as using a reef sleeve, necessarily, or a Stokes basket, in configuration, so especially if you're having to take this a long distance, either into the back country or climb a ladder, getting up to a tower or whatever the case may be, this might be a little bit easier to work with, and also to put on in limited space type environment. So we used to have another device called the LSP halfback on here. It had gotten kind of old and needed to be retired. This is even a more functional piece of equipment than what that is. So basically, you know, you can't even say it these days because of all the young kids, but we used to carry KED devices on all of our trucks, and this is very similar to kind of how a KED goes on, but provides a little bit better capability. So basically, when we look at this and we put this on somebody, we're gonna rotate, get them positioned in, and the initial strap we have is this red one that's gonna go kind of across their waist area and secure
Daniel's volunteering to be.
into their waist. We'll put them in it in just a second once we kind of look at some of the features here. So we have the waist strap. Then once the waist strap is put on, we flip this over here, and then we're able to see that these have color-coded points on them. So we have black webbing goes to black webbing. So that's gonna clip across in that configuration, red to red, clip across into that configuration. And then we have blue, blue goes to blue, for the leg straps. And then we can adjust all of those straps into place, get that nice and secure on the person. So that's gonna get the person secured in here. As far as the headpiece goes, this actually can slide up and down in here to adjust to wherever they fit into the device best. And then we have a couple different strap configurations, whether you wanna use the, yellow kind of, vinyl coated ones, or just use the red ones across there. and then a couple different elevation pads. These just have Velcro, so these can all pull out, or you can have them all stacked in there to compensate for space behind the neck. We keep a C-collar also in this kit, so we've got the adjustable C-collar that we can put on the person. So that gets us essentially the front portion of this taken care of. Then this little device here clips into these triangles, and it's basically, you stick the two wrists through here, and then you can cinch that down and clip it up, but that'll basically hold the arms into place, especially if you have somebody that's either incapacitated or they're reaching and grabbing a whole bunch, and we can basically kind of just tether their hands into place there. Okay? So that's the main portion of this. When we look at, so we have carry handles or grab handles along here. These are not hoisting points. These are simply to lift and carry or to drag. On the back of this, it's got a nice smooth surface, so it's actually designed to be able to do horizontal drags as well. So think about, we have somebody who's working down in a horizontal pipe. They become incapacitated. We need to package them and drag them out of that. This will work really well in that capacity. We have a lifting ring here. So this is a lifting ring. We can use this if we're gonna go a very short distance and they're not gonna be suspended for very long. But if we hoist somebody from this lifting ring, they're prone to the same harness syndrome that we would be hanging incapacitated. So they say that if we lift somebody and move them, they shouldn't be suspended more than about 5 to 7 minutes in that configuration. We'll show you another configuration here where they can be suspended longer. This is, I don't believe that there shouldn't be a reason to hoist anybody from that ring, but also in a horizontal drag, or if we want to put a tagline on somebody, we can use that ring that's kind of down underneath their legs there for that. So I think that pretty much covers that part of it. We'll put somebody in it here in a second. Then this part gets to be maybe slightly more confusing. So what we have here is going to be our actual lifting bridle for the patient. And so we have the crossbar. This becomes kind of our master point here that we would hook into. So we have a crossbar that goes into these two yellow positions down here. That's on a swivel. Master point there. Just support that for me. Then this is an adjustable point that goes up to the head portion of this. And what this allows us to do is position the patient once they're in here. Then this is going to go down and go underneath basically their knees. And the red strap goes up and over their feet. And so these are all adjustable. Once we get that patient suspended, then we can adjust all these buckles in different configurations to get them in the position of best comfort. It also allows us to do maybe like a semi-horizontal sitting position while we're raising them, which reduces the risk of that harness-induced pathology. But once you get up to a narrower opening, like we're going through a manhole, then we can adjust this up and actually pivot them into more of that vertical position for the final portion of the lift as we need to. Okay? So let's put Pimbo in this. I'll let you guys all just kind of come work and get him packaged into this. And then we'll drag him over to the tripod and we'll suspend him and take a look at how it all works out. This one goes first.
I'll be nice, I'll lay down on it.
You're welcome.
Knocked out your
You
tooth.
twisted, twisted.
We have a safety violation.
Oh, there's our safety.
okay?
No, we're good. Sir, we're good.
Lost the tooth. I need to go home.
I do too.
You should have.
It's not meant for big bags.
You want it around that high or down lower or?
Nah, that's probably about right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a big guy.
And, you know, something to keep in mind too, guys, while you're working with stuff is, we need to wear gloves once we're loading the system on a rope, but when we're packaging the patient, when we're tying knots, when we're setting up a system, that's when we lose the gloves. It just becomes a hindrance.
Whoa.
I mean, if I'm managing something like that, I'll probably not take it with me, cause I don't wanna be sweating the whole time, so.
Maybe?
I
Hard plastic?
would probably have a pair with me, so once we get to provide patient care, but once I get them packaged and stuff, I'll probably go.
How big size are those?
Ditch them and go back to just my leather gloves.
What?
You do that day every day.
I think it's one of those you're just gonna have to catch a judge on me.
His head needs strapped down, where's that at?
Use the soft.
Yellow, or is that?
These are really soft.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the yellow or the red, and honestly, with his neck position, I'd probably use one of those, covers. And those unvelcro, you can like pull completely. Yeah.
Has anybody got the ketamine for this guy?
Yeah, thank you, please. Oh, it's kind of silly.
What's that?
Can you tell where I'm touching down here, sir?
No.
Wow.
Can you push it down?
One thing to be careful with, and again, we don't do a lot of the mobilization stuff like we used to with patients and KED boards. But always when we put something across the C-collar, we used to have a habit, we hit across that chin or C-collar and push it down pretty tight. It ends up pushing the C-collar down into their neck and cause some airway compromise, so probably best to just loosely across there. And we even got towards the end of, using a lot of mobilization stuff to where we rarely did that. So that's kind of it's kind of an odd little setup. So it connects to, there's a little triangle right here. It connects there. And then these buckle back towards each other, which is kind of weird.
Just hands in, pull through.
So, and I think those actually go handy.
Yeah.
The loop slide, the strap slide across the top of the legs and then loops into, so, hold on, before you tighten this down, so this would actually come. Legs through this way,
Okay.
legs through, and then just go over the feet. That configuration.
Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Can you pull up on your feet? No, that's wrong.
And then again, depending on the size of the person, you can adjust that to where it's in the most comfortable positions and support it once we get it suspended.
I think I can get up.
Not on the tripod.
That's where you're going.
This reminds me of the rack he puts the patients in.
Yeah.
The burrito or whatever.
Yeah. I wish we could turn it into
Why is it that?
Okay. Now, thing, look at the way, I don't love the way those are loaded right there. Yeah, I would lay it to where, let's spin it this way. And do, lay it down in the gates, I like the way it goes, so we'll let that. Okay. Okay, buddy?
Yep. Better now.
There you go. There you go. We were on the same page there. Okay. And then, this here is, so I call that our master point right there. We can flip into that as our master, actually. Everything's gonna lay good like that. This is a pick-off strap, so again, we can adjust this as short or as long as we want to, and then make other adjustments there as well. And once we get them suspended, then we can. So again, like, when we look at our drag point here, we have a pretty good low friction drag point that we can get somebody along here. Now, one of the things I'll teach in a lot of the confined space classes, there's a Aztec one there. If I'm trying to drag him through a small tunnel right now, it's gonna be hard for me to. It may be really hard for me to physically be in the same place he is to drag him through a narrow opening or something like that. But if I can get to where, I don't know what I'll be hold well enough, but if I can get to where I can wedge myself in, then I can drag him through confined spaces pretty easily to get to where I need to go. Work myself back out to a better position or wedge in, at the edge of the tube and be able to drag him across the floor, but drag him where we want to. So this is a good tool to have for horizontal work as well when we get down into a confined space.
You said those are down to like $50 now, the Aztecs?
What's that?
Aztecs are back down to about $50 now?
Yeah.
Oh, it's all pretty, look at it. Are you comfortable, sir? Okay? So now in this position, he's pretty. Someone twisted it.
That happens. He's after himself.
So in a lot of patients.
Yeah.
We can stand him almost completely up to bring him up, through a narrower type hole or opening. Or if you're wanting to do something that's a little more comfortable for a lot of people and avoid a lot of that harness-induced pathology, is to get kind of more into that sitting position right there. But compared to being secured tight and completely flat in like a soap basket. In a soap basket. So, yeah, that's pretty much the setup on that. Yeah, and in true, you know, in a true confined space, a lot of times you're not gonna have an attendant actually driving with them because it's gonna be basically one person in and out at a time. So we're able to bring them up and out. And then, with the attachment points on this, if we've got a stokes basket, or I'm sorry, a belay line hooked up to it, we can do a belay line up into this head position on here, cause again, we're probably stand them up as we bring them up through, for a secondary belay line if we need them. Questions?
One thing to note, if you're adjusting these for any reason, make sure you're not getting too close to these clips with your gloved hands especially. They should always have gloves on, because this is under tension. So one hand's running, and you're just slowly feeding it in. It will bite your glove and suck it in, and then you gotta reach across your body and try to pull it back out. It's also been kept you pinched, I noticed it. See?
Yeah. Pinch points.
Is that more comfortable there? Yeah, a little bit. Maybe legs a little bit. Because sometimes that straight lock knee position is a little. Cool. See you, buddy. Uncomfortable. All right, get out.
Yeah, Paul, okay.
No, now you gotta, don't flop on the ground.
Oh.
Yeah, pull that real quick.
Yeah. What else you guys think? Good?
Gonna test the shock load on it.
If you're going to the hall, you just like, yeah, hook them up, get that first, and then pull them after you're out.
Depends on the environment. You're gonna have
So-
systems running down in one area.
You know, one of the challenges we run into then, and this is a real world scenario, is once we get this person suspended, remember when you saw how high we, had the tripod set up? Especially if we were coming up completely, vertical with him, he's gonna still be pretty hard to clear that opening or that hole, so it emphasizes the importance of having that up really high.
Coming out and moving them to get over the hole, we had to watch that.
Yeah, so that's a very common point where we may end up tipping our tripod over, is bringing them out. Ideally, if you can, depending upon the size of the hole, what I like to do is bring that person up, get them suspended, and just cover our opening. Especially if we just have a spine board here, so you get them up. We did that with the guy up at the St. Luke's incident. As soon as we got him suspended and up past the opening, we put a spine board over the opening. We were able to drop him right down on the spine board, get him released from the system, and drag the spine board off of the opening. So that keeps all of your resultant forces. But this is, you know, we get in hurries at certain points, and so like ice rescue, where do we get in a hurry at ice rescue? It seems like that we need to slow down always. Once we get the person up on the ice, that's the point we tell everybody, slow down, because we get ready to just take off and yank. And we seem to do the same thing with this. We get this person, they break the plane, and we get them here. Then all of a sudden, all these people on the surface wants to grab a hold of them and yank them off, and that's where we can end up tipping ourselves over. So just kind of slow down, get them packaged, get them moved out of the way. You wanna go over splint now?
Yeah, system?
Yeah.
Good. You
Let's let Kimbo out.
Are you sure?
No, not 100%, but.
over a new type of traction splint that we're beta testing. It just came in a couple days ago.
Whoa.
So, this is the Slishman traction splint, generation 2. They made some slight improvements for comfort. This is manufactured by North American Rescue, and this is the entire traction splint right here. As opposed to the 3.5 foot long bag and whole other work we have. So this thing is pretty ultralight, less than 2 pounds, which is really nice. It's also very quick to put on. So this is designed to fit most people, including pediatric patients. So you don't actually have to run the full thing out to configure it. But for adults, we have the red spark goes up to the groin. This goes down to the feet. So pull it out the first click. If you need to adjust again, you can add to the second. He's not that tall. So you turn to the first click. Sir, if your leg's broken, this is gonna hurt. Alright?
Where's my throat?
We're out right now. It's a bummer, man. For all those chairs. So, like with any major mid shaft fracture, we wanna make sure we're not on the lateral side. Tensions in here. Rotate, that's gonna hurt, sorry about it. And we can align this with the ankle. It doesn't actually have to go over the ankle bones and leadless. This can go right above those. If he does have a secondary fracture in here, this thing is allowed to actually attach just below the proximal head of the tibia, so right below the kneecap, or the calf, if you're using the word. You can attach it there. Now this will still be flopping around and uncomfortable, but that is an option. Once you get in the right position, the proximal open, and just velcro right around the foot. So what's kind of neat about this one is we can help pull, but we actually can get patient involvement on this, so they can pull at their own rate. If he's not pulling fast enough, it's fine. There's a pull in here, and he gets to where you hear that pop, or you see the adjustment, he feels immediate relief. All we do is pull down on this. There's actually a cam on the back side of this red shaft. So the line sits here typically and allows it to maneuver. Once you hit that point, you just pull down, it breaks that locking cam over. And then to make sure that it doesn't slide back up and open up again, we just run it around this capture release right here. And that's it. You tuck it in. Now he's got relief. And the last part is we want to make sure his legs stay together. Ow. We'll bring these together. And you throw this little strap ball around his feet. He's got tons of little Velcro points, so it can attach to itself. But that's pretty much it. For the size of this thing is, especially if we're looking at something that's like a long haul, we're gonna put them onto that device. We can still put this in place. It may not be super comfortable, we might get a couple pressure points here, but it's a hell of a lot better than a leg flopping around. So, pretty quick and easy.
What's the cost on it, just out of curiosity?
$196, I think, was the power cost.
That's super cheap.
Yeah. They're tiny, they're ultralight.
Yeah.
Probably not a bad thing once we approve or we not approve this, we can put them on the SWAT as well as part of our packaging.
Yeah.
So it's quick and easy. Again, this works on pediatrics and it runs pretty extensively. I mean, unless you're treating someone who's 7 foot tall, probably won't.
I mean, that's the only traction splint I know of that you can run the shorter segments. I'll have a distal injury too,
Yeah.
so.
Yes, if
Yeah,
it's
if
got
you
and
have a
there's
fall
a,
or something, yeah.
he had a long fall and he's got a tib fin and a femur. And to release it, you just pull back up on this cam and it'll slide back in on itself. We still leave this attachment in place. So we just pop this here. And attach it as best you can to the cap. Throw right below the knee. We can do the exact same thing. So it pops, capture, close that cam, and bring it through.
Pretty cool.
What do you think? Comfortable?
That's not too bad.
just its compact profile, and the fact that it fits so many different patients, and you can do it with a single person in under a minute. Not to mention, if you only have a single person, like we're doing on a confined space, as uncomfortable as it may be, you can coach them, hey, pull up on this, and then you straighten that, and all they gotta know is punch it down. On the back side here, you can see that little groove. When it's up and oriented all the way through the slot, that's how you get movement up and down. But as soon as we come out and we break this plane, it locks in. Just jam slot right there.
Super cool.
Switching, yep. It's a doctor's name. Kevin, put it on. Put it on him. Snap it up.
Scenario time. Okay, you guys ready? Okay. We have a reported confined space incident. We've got a worker who we're in contact with, but is unable to get himself extricated out of the confined space. Okay? We got our tripod already set up. Let's maybe get the rest of our equipment. We need 2 rescuers that's gonna be ready to make an entry. Okay? Aaron, acting Captain Aaron, you're gonna be our entry person.
Okay.
In charge of our entry, so we can do a quick little interview with me, who is the initial witness.
Okay.
And,
Alright.
So we're gonna need 2 people to do a confined space entry. We'll need somebody to volunteer to be a victim, and they'll be doing an extrication, we're gonna be doing a simulation, we'll leave the tripod set up where it is, it'll be kind of a simulation type scenario. We'll need actual taglines set up, for each of our.
Please limit number of drivers on illegal burn.
Each of our entrants going in, we'll have.
In the area of Southwest Cold Spring Drive, Southwest Range Drive,
And
121.
we'll figure it out from there.
And like some helmets and gloves.
Yep, helmets and gloves, thank you, actually, could you be our safety officer for
Yeah,
this
yeah.
incident? And then Mr. Hartman can be your assistant safety officer, you 2 can work in tandem and make sure that we're safe on our whole incident here.
Fantastic.
Okay, perfect. All right. Yeah, so, entrance, let's get, gloves and helmets on, please. Huh? Yeah, and, we need 2 entrants, it's gonna be our, harness up, so whoever wants to go grab some harnesses and be our entrance. You can't do that. Anybody else want to do it? Yeah, you can vote on this. Looks like you got Seth and Kovac. Yeah, what's up there? Yeah, it's back to Yeah.
Alright, so what we got here?
Confined rescue, correct? Yeah, so, my buddy was down working in this confined space. It's a non-permit, required, we don't have any hazards down there. We haven't been able to but I can hear him calling at me. He says that he can hear the leg and he can't get out. But I can't see him from the entrance. He was supposed to have a tagline on, but we forgot to put that on.
You know how far back he might be waiting for the opening?
Nah, I mean, maybe 30 or 40 feet down there. So, this is is like a storm drain, that connects some other storm drains, and he was doing an inspection down in there, and I'm not sure, like I said, I can hear him hollering at me, but he says he can't get out. And, so I think he's still conscious down in there, he's still talking to us, but I think when you go down, like you gotta go this way, that way a little bit, and then there's like a tube that goes underneath, like it's probably like 3 feet or so, like that. I think he may be down in there, that was where he was supposed to be working.
Alright.
So, Joe Bob.
Joe Bob, alright.
Yeah, he's a plumber.
Plumber, okay, yeah, alright.
Yeah.
Alright, and he's no complaints of any restorations you're aware of? I know you said there's no hazard.
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I hear him saying that he's just gonna help getting out there. He can't get out on his own. I don't know if he's trapped in something. I don't know.
Just have a possibility of injury, unable to get out.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay, alright, sounds good. Alright.
So we need a team to set up an anchor point for our tag lines and set up a belay system for our tag lines. Guys that we put down there, we can use the 11mm rope on them, but I think they can use up the rope as we go down. So we'll belay them as we roll them in. So I was getting down in the hole, and I guess he went, I'm not sure how he climbed out, there's no ladder in here.
No ladder or anything like that? Big manhole? Yep. Okay, alright. Sounds good. How big's our opening, like, would you say?
I mean, it's just a standard.
Standard manhole, okay, alright.
24.
24, okay. Alright, sounds good. Alright, I'll let dispatch now, we can get quick alarm, find rescue. Get that going. Safety on scene's well, man, you can see it, she's well. Yep. You know what, I think we're good for now, I appreciate it, the light stands. You guys here, what's going on? The fine rest, about a manhole size, manhole cover size opening, went down about 30 feet or so from the opening. You can hear him, no hazards at this time, he's talking and speaking fine, said he has a possible leg injury, unable to get out this time. Yeah, one air monitoring, so we'll do a drain, some portal we can tap, so, yep. There's no hazard, but I just want to, just in case, so.
I'm gonna use this small rope. I'll get another. Right there. Oh. So now, just a thought. Now, let's take this here. This one is correct, because if you're lowering somebody off, it will be
Hey, Joe Bob, you doing okay? This fire department. Oh, okay. Okay, well, get back down in there, so you're resting.
So just a thought on this. This is completely appropriate for delay. You guys are gonna have to, like, basically man these the whole time and be feeding the hook out, which may be a little bit of a pain on those. This would be, to me, a perfect place to utilize the ASAP. They can pretty much just rerun while we're lowering it. Just have to have the ability to haul if we need to. So if we have the clutch, the remainder of the stuff, we need to set up a haul system here. So we can just hold one, retrieve one of those guys as quick as we could. But, I mean, So, when they start lowering out, I'm gonna have to either actively delay them out and try not to be handing them up while we're lowering them down, and then when these guys get down, they're gonna be walking around or crawling and stuff. If I've got them on this, they're constantly gonna be, messing with us having to feed this to them. I would prefer probably just to put one of the ASAPs in here. Let that ASAP run with them. This is we'll keep a little bit of distinction on it and let it feed while we're doing the vertical lower with them. But once they get down into where they're working, we can just walk away and let them have as much rope as they want with that ASAP. I just have to have the ability to build a call system in here with that ASAP to get it back out. We have to do an emergency retrieval. Okay? Does that make sense? Yeah, I know. Okay. So, yeah, what's the ASAP one? So I'm gonna leave this clutch set out here because this is gonna be our retrieval system if we need it. And we'll need a pulley and a crucible to do that as well. So if it's ASAP, we're gonna put this right over the road, so he can go out. If he goes too fast, that's gonna catch him. So that, but I put my ASAP in here, I pretty much walk away, and that's a done deal. When he gets ready to get lowered, if he's got a bunch of slack, I'm gonna just take that up, and when he's going down there and he's lower, we'll just make sure that that's speeding out, otherwise, that can just speed out the whole time. Now, if something happens and we have to get him out, this is where we're going to, come and transition into, we'll throw a clutch in here, put this in, we'll just drop our ASAP completely out of the system. I'll throw my cruise stick and my pulley in, I've got a 3-to-1 to haul them out that quick and easy. Okay? That's it, but the rest of the time, I'm gonna put both of these guys on ASAP. Take this out of the system. Delete this. Nope, there's G-rated carabiner. Yep. Yeah, so the twisted carabiners had any, reduction in strength. They're a G-rated carabiner, so they're just as strong. It's 40 kilonewton along the spine, 16, 11 open. Actually, at a 16, that's actually an insulated carabiner, so that's higher than some of the others.
What's the reason for this?
So, you can run. Yeah, when you have them set here,
reported that to safety, so.
Did you get a meter on you?
Right there.
You got a meter on, so we gotta look at that as a meter.
We're keeping in contact with the patient, looks like it just has a leg injury, just still talking, alert north at this point, so has been able to get out, so we gotta go down, make contact, and help get him out.
So, you're gonna have to do a, we'll have to do a horizontal entrance over here, vertical entrance over here, okay? So you're gonna get lower down into the hole. Who's going down first? A lot of times when we're going through, like a manhole or vertical, we'll actually use our chest, attachment point. Yeah, it's gonna be more comfortable to just kind of be hanging, and it's also gonna keep you a little more upright than the waist tends to lean you back. That's ideal when you can put your feet on something, but if you're out in this free space, you end up kind of falling back or having to hang on to the rope to be able to get over. Okay? So we got you there, and then you're not gonna be the one controlling this, this will be pick up all your slack here, okay? And then, no, because what this rope is, that we have in this bag is 200 feet. This is a 4-to-1 system. So that gives us the ability to lower somebody about 50 feet into a hole, which is way deeper than any kind of confined space where like we could sit right into here. So we have, now, I want to point out a couple things here. When we look at the belay system, and we'll kind of discuss why we set a couple things up the way we did. So he's on his main line, this is his haul system here. His belay system is running back here to the edge. Is this belay system doing anything for him at this point? Now, not until he fell all the way through that hole, basically. So that's a common thing, and in most cases, you're probably gonna sit right on the edge of the hole. It'll take a little bit of force, you'll scoop yourself off and lay it down, but since we're working in the simulated here, we've got to push it up high. But one of the things that we can do is we can actually adjust the point of our belay. And that's part of the reason we put this Aztec on here. This will look a little bit confusing here for a second, but I can put this Aztec on here, and go ahead and raise it up a little bit. Okay, that's good right there. We can lock that there. So what I've done is just change the direction of that belay point. Now, if his main line fell right here, would his belay catch him and catch him high on the tripod? Yeah, I mean, yeah. If I dropped him, we're gonna be right here. Now, the only thing we may run into is a little bit of when we look at that resultant angle, that may be a little bit steep. But if that catches and sets up on him, then that's gonna kind of hold him there. It's gonna be better than falling 8 feet down into that hole before it catches you. So that creates a bit of an adjustable belay. And once he breaks that plane, then all we do is grab this, and I can bring this down, you can take up your slack, we can unhook this, and then just let that belay run over our edge, and we can put this back out of the way. Okay, does that make sense? Yeah. So that's part of the reason we have that there, is it's just a useful extra tool, for being able to do stuff. Now, if I end up having to haul him back out, that may also be a benefit, in a couple ways. We could haul him all the way up to the edge on this line, and then I could potentially just reach down and flip this to him and lift him the rest of the way out, having that Aztec already pre-rigged there, so it's an easy way for me to get him out. Okay? So, just create some rigging options. Okay. Okay, you're down on the ground in your hole. You can go ahead and unflip from that. So this line is really just this is your hoist way to get people and equipment in and out. Okay? So up here, pull this back up. Your confined space goes that way.
Two people on the end of those lines.
Um, Seth, so you're down, you're starting to explore, and you've got kind of a room down here, but you notice when you get kind of down by that garage door and you look to the left, you see that there's, down underneath there is a tube, and you can hear Timberland hollering at you down there. Okay? So, do you want to proceed on by yourself at this point? What do you think? Okay? Okay, so you want Kovac to go down there with you? Guys, do you want anything?
Yes, I want the immobilizer so we can get him out, hook up to the leg.
Okay?
You want the scan and the traction point? Copy that, we'll get that for you. Okay?
Sir, can you hear me? Oh, yeah. What hurts on me? My leg. Which leg? You gotta go through, yeah.
Guys good? Anything else?
I think we're good for now.
Good for now, all right.
I got a pinch point here.
Yes, I will be there 4 days.
Good? Yep, I'm good. I'm too good.
Going down the tube.
Going down too.
We got the 10-minute break in there, so it'll be good. It'll be perfect.
Good? Perfect, all right. Excellent.
Hold on. Hey, don't pull that. Don't pull that.
I'm good there.
Good.
Good.
Yeah, we're good.
So once we get him on here, we're gonna have to turn so we're pulling his head.
Why?
Well, actually, I guess he would be pulling the heat out now. Okay.
Especially depending on what room we actually have to work in. We're not.
I got him on the seat, I'm gonna log roll towards me, all right?
You guys confirm he's oriented talking to you and all
Yeah, I
that?
talked to him, yep.
Okay.
He said he got leg pain.
Okay,
He's
leg pain.
Screaming in pain.
Screaming in pain, okay.
So we're gonna need the tractions point.
I need to get that traction splinter on first, maybe.
Yeah.
We need some of that pain and he might respond a little better.
Wait, they're EMTs.
All I can provide is emotional support. I don't want it.
Hey, Jonah. If he's got a femur fracture, you want to be
Which
throwing
one
that on
did we
first?
identify as our
Said his right leg.
right leg?
Of course it is, it's the one on the.
Remember, you could let him full traction, whatever's comfortable for him if he wants to, so.
Sir, this is gonna. Could we give this guy drugs?
PLS crew.
If we were to opt in, that's the medic school, he's close.
Oh, that's true, actually.
Could we send the medic down?
We could,
Yeah.
yeah.
What would we give him?
Probably ketamine.
Ketamine, probably.
All
Yeah.
the ketamine.
Huh?
All of it. Name, date, and social.
Depends on how much he weighs. I'd give him the 0.3 mg per kg.
Yeah.
You guys good doing that intranasal without having an IV on him? Or IM?
I'd say I am safe.
Slower onset, less chance of hitting the K-hole.
Yeah, I agree. It's sore onset, so if it's delayed, I mean,
That's my favorite for even major ortho is IM.
It's slower.
We didn't have ketamine back in the day.
Oh, you know what?
Quit crying.
Could've got the nitrous back down there.
Yeah.
Nitrous. Bring nitrous down maybe as an option.
Yeah.
A little more cumbersome to carry.
Yeah, a little bit, but
The,
You get relief and then push it down.
depends on, you know.
I think the downside of nitrous, for me would just be his ability to manage it, especially when we're doing a lot of moving.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is where, so they ketamine the guy, that we had down in
It's right there, that
at
one.
St. Luke's.
Oh,
They did intranasal ketamine on him, worked wonders, you know. They did ketamine on the kids that they swam out of the cave and.
Oh, really?
You know, I mean, it's pretty safe
One of those rescuers died, didn't they?
as long as we're following proper dosages, we should be fine.
It didn't hurt.
Is that open loop, just go around the feet?
Yeah.
Do we have the head straps?
So the open one just wraps around both feet.
This open
The,
one?
yeah, the feet themselves.
It'll pay out. You just gotta pull on it.
Or I see it was.
Mm-hmm. You can tell I have different Velcro attachment points. It just has to hit itself twice. You quit screaming, you must have fixed the pain.
The battery got tired of being dramatic.
I don't know.
Passed out from the pain.
Just wanna see how this goes in with the system. If it causes any issues on it.
Yeah.
Maybe slightly
Oh,
more easement
the
to set
bang
the
bus?
level away.
I don't know if you get a femur fracture, I think it was pulling some upward force. I don't know. Once you get on the legs a little bit.
I just wonder if the splint itself would be in the way of this leg strap.
A little bit, with my feet might be there. Pretty okay.
Yeah, look at where you fix that. I think just adjusted.
Slide that thing up a bit.
There you go.
No, that works out okay. I think if we had it just a little bit more down on the outside of his leg.
I like where you pulled with that ass. That's what I need to hear.
You guys still good down there?
Yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Throw a strap around a tree.
Perfect.
Throw a strap around a tree, an anchor strap, and just
Cause most of the time I'm out by myself, cause everybody works, I'm out during the winter, so.
drag it up the creek.
Might loosen the buckle portion
Mm-hmm. Got the prayer hands. You don't see that too often outside of anything else.
You necessarily need to put that
So-
on right now?
So, I went until we got to like our hoisting point, cause you guys are gonna have to drag him quite a ways. That's just gonna kind of confuse and make a mess of all of that. So I'd leave that probably back in its package. And then, you know, before, just like kind of anything we're doing, gonna have to do a lot of horizontal dragging to get him moved out of here. But then before you get ready to hoist him, then I would,
You wanna slide them like this, or do you wanna try and get it? Coming out of the pipe.
Okay, sounds good.
Watch the door eye, cross door eye.
They're gonna crawl over there.
Take the slack out.
Yeah, take the slack out. Hold on, let me get her. Hold a second, you guys get caught there.
Good? Yep, you're in.
Watch your line there. He's on your knee. Get your away, out of the way.
Get the slack out of that.
Caught on the red rope there.
Good.
Rest look good?
Yep, you're over me.
Okay. You guys need anything else right now?
I think we're good, we're gonna get them caught up on the.
Okay.
How's that kid doing?
Not great. I have some more.
You seen the wizard yet?
Yeah.
Once we get it, we simulate it, lift it out, and all our adjustments.
They are.
Med 3 is off today.
Alcohol. Med 6.
They're, I don't know. No comment.
Hey, I'm not on it.
Take up some slack, good.
Okay.
Good there.
But it's right, we're gonna leave it.
You good with it?
Take a check everything.
Yeah. Remember, this is a manhole size, so we're gonna have to come up with a little vertical then to get them out, so.
So we should be, I mean, obviously, every situation is different, but I would assume there'd be some opening to where we could get him on the system then, get him
Yeah.
started quickly.
Yeah, so you can kind of drag this way, and then we can suspend it.
What if you dropped a, extension ladder down there and give them something to ride up, you know? Like, I don't know.
So,
So he's not moving, flop, or swing, give him a.
if we're going through a manhole, you gotta think about the size of the
Yeah.
manhole. You're not gonna fit a ladder plus a victim through. So the guy that we pulled up at, St. Louis, he was like a Jesse or Hazen sized guy.
Oh,
And he actually told us before his shoulders didn't fit square through, and so we actually had to move one of his arms up, kind of burn him like a lady out of the hole to get him through. So you're gonna be pretty limited. Now, I like the ladder idea when we talk about, we did that up in Ford District, and something was on that, there was a basement with no stairs in it, and a construction accident. And so they used the ladder, and we messed with the stokestack on the rails, but the stokestacks that sit within the rung or the rails of the ladder. So that works nice to slide somebody up and have them on a system, still kind of into it, but for a horizontal or vertical lift, I probably wouldn't.
All right,
Okay.
you ready?
You're
ready, sorry.
Good to haul.
Okay.
Are you okay, sir? Tom Hall? And I would say, when you guys get it first, just hang him, kind of work on either before you hang him or after, work on getting those straps adjusted, because, you know, you're in a, and that's realistic, you're in a really tight space trying to get them packaged, but when you get them out to a bigger opening, or when you do your test hang, before you actually send them out. How's that femur feel now?
Yep.
On the
Cover
break.
Yeah, this, we can send it down on it. We can lower back down, slide them out.
Except you guys are down in the hole.
Yeah.
So you're down underneath. You're down under, and that fucking work. You ready?
You ready?
Yeah.
Sir, you doing okay?
Don't, watch your language around it, we don't talk like that. So, alright, that's good. Yeah, let's get plenty of slack here. Might just need to put them on the system so we can get it out.
All right.
Just don't drag it out away from the system.
You ready?
Don't fall in the hole, sir.
You doing okay? Just a leg injury? All right. We're gonna get
No drug.
no drugs. All right, we'll get you back, we'll get you how you going, give you some pain medication to help set.
I didn't know.
Okay.
What's that? I didn't want to say.
You're welcome. I'm on the gate, please.
Yeah.
No, Liberty.
Your doctor's off today.
Actually, I'd really like to build an NU. That could happen. Over comfortable on being.
Yeah, I'm thinking at least another client.
Oh, I appreciate that. I have that flag.
It's not terribly expensive, just like 60,000 pesos. For the flat.
All right. Oh, okay.
Holy cow. Yeah. Snack in the case of that.
I'm better.
This is perfect. I like it. I like this stuff I really have.
We got guys in the hole, still in the hole. Yeah, they got you. Out.
Jumped out. Where did you say was? Over on the truck. Over on the other side.
You ready? We're gonna pull our guys out.
Yeah. So give them a color.
We are blue. Blue first.
So, up on blue. Okay.
You ready? All right, cool.
Overtime tomorrow, station 3. Captain tomorrow. And they're both his back.
Kyle just needs to
Ready?
stay here.
Casey was building tomorrow.
Come over here, so fall back in the hole.
You okay, brother?
Seth, you still good down there? All right, we'll get you in just a second.
Good job. Off system. Yeah. Seth just got incapacitated by heat and went down. We need to do a non-entry extraction on the red line. Set up a whole system.
Seth, you still good? Seth?
Are you going back down? Okay.
Confirming there's no other hazards at this point, it's just, exhaustion, not burning itself.
Yeah, he said he was feeling pretty hot.
Pretty hot, okay. All right.
Well.
The only question I have is, I don't know, I would say something else. Pulling up those two colors. At that point, is your non-entry out, the officers gone, sending that down just to get him to the whole day.
So what you're saying is he went down
Back down
and
there.
pulled him.
Press you.
I just said, like, no, Mike is up there and pull it, I mean, you have to take them in, so, like I said, we were checking our monitors the entire day.
Yeah.
Grab, you need to grab at least, yeah, you can do a single, so the double
Yeah.
pullers are only supposed to be loaded in a double configuration. Yep, use as much of your whole field as you can, that's the beauty of having that anchor point set away as that.
Seth, you good? We're gonna drag you out.
Okay.
All right. You injured at all?
Nope, just fine.
Just tired? All right, sounds good. All right. You need some water, get out some water down to you.
Okay, stop. Good, that's all we got. Now. Perfect timing. Haul them the rest of the way out. So yeah, you get them to that plane, it's gonna be hard maybe to, you'd have to, if he's truly out, you'd have to have a handle him to get him back up and over.
Lift you up, Seth. Doing okay? All right.
Yep. Yep.
There, you can hold that. All right.
Keep going.
Yep, you just have to keep going. Where's the, backboard? Yeah, we need backboard. Drop down there so it doesn't fall down in. In there, Seth.
guys thought about that rescue scenario. What's that? Oh. Potential realistic, yeah,
Hopefully it's not sitting under water.
alright, yeah, but I mean, the realistic of putting something on in a tight space and, again, like the guy at St. Luke's, where he was down in, it was a pretty small space, like they didn't have enough room to completely log roll him to one side, the walls were tight enough, so the entire time they were working on getting him packaged, they were having to literally like stand up and over him and be careful where they were stepping, because there wasn't much room down there at all, like where he filled up pretty much the entire space, so. So yeah, I would say, you know, before somebody gets out of voice shot, if we're going down into something where we don't have direct visual contact from the opening, that we need to, you know, maybe do some relay type communication, and, you know, the reality is the radios are typically won't work once we get very far into a confined space. So even if we have to put somebody else down just at the base of the hole, or within visual shot to maintain, you know, verbal communication, because we don't have any of the hard line rope communication or any of that kind of stuff, so we can keep in contact with our crews and realize that this is a super high risk, thing, so. I thought we did good. Consideration, we talked about, I mean, if this guy's in a ton of pain and we're gonna be moving and manipulating, it might be a consideration that we do wanna send the medic down, just to have that ability to give him some drugs if we need to, type thing, so. What else?
What the rest of your equipment well, what didn't?
I think I should have positioned him better on that,
Mhm.
making sure like his shoulders were in line.
Yeah, starting to slide off the board a little bit.
Especially, yeah,
You
Yeah,
found
it was
something.
uncomfortable.
Out of the city.
Yeah.
So if you went down in a confined space in a hole, what did you realize you didn't have immediately?
Lights.
Lights.
Yeah.
Any kind of way to see. I mean, maybe very thin light, it may not be accessible, depending on your rigging, where your pocket rode up to. That's where getting, when you get your harness set, get everything out of your pockets that you're gonna need, that isn't being away, first of all, and then repositioning tools. We carry stuff like this just for normal day-to-day stuff, but if we're going this scenario there, we may wanna put a thin light up somewhere different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a box of headlamps over on the truck that old, but they still work, so on the squad.
Box
so.
light.
Put your light here,
Yeah.
you know, we've got the box lights, so we've got these bigger lights on the truck, so, you know, when you guys get down and realize you're gonna be working in an environment for a while, you know, have somebody send all that equipment down. So, good equipment staging area, we kinda had this set up here, but that's something, you know, if we roll up on an incident, it's kinda like rolling up on a trauma call, you don't wanna just jump out and not take anything with you. You know, if we know we're going on some sort of a rope rescue incident, everybody grab your rope bags, have your gloves, have that kind of stuff, but as you start thinking, hey, we might need lighting, we might need some medical supplies, we might just need a tag line just to send equipment down, grab one of our, you know, rescue throw bags or whatever, just as an equipment line to be able to drop stuff down as they get down and start calling for stuff that they may need. It just all, if we have it all right here, it goes super smooth instead of running back and forth. You guys had the Aztec, you could have taken that down, or called for it, you know, to use them for that horizontal movement, kind of getting them through that tube. So, yeah.
Did you guys protect anything you didn't cover?
No, it's good. I mean, he talked about maybe having like a pulley system. If it was a bigger person, yeah, he'd probably maybe think about taking that down with us.
Even bringing like an anchor strap if you want to set. Fine.
Please come in, check 7, respond, 2837 Southwest Carlton Drive. EMS call.
Surface upgrades, running like the belays and doing the haul system, anything up here?
Yeah.
No, I thought it went well, we got a haul system set up pretty quickly when we had that, but having that equipment there ready to go too, just being in that mindset, so.
For a lot of you guys, it's the first time touching the clutches. Any thoughts on those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That's, I appreciate you guys all playing today. It's good to see you on the equipment. We did a lot of different stuff today, but I think to get the base familiarity with that and how to put some of those systems together that we know, doing our haul system, messing with our Aztec, some of those basic components we play with, and put them together into a scenario where we use them.
Yeah.
Cool.
thank you guys for participating, thank you Captain Wainwright, Captain Eller for getting along and training.
Yeah.
Really good.
Fun stuff.
No real safety concerns or anything, everything went smooth.
Nobody
Yeah.
got hurt?
So, very good.
Cool. Chief, you got anything you need to?
I might, after, we finish up, we'll go back over a couple things, but,
Okay.
maybe one question, and I know we could probably what if a lot of things. but
Yep.
Regarding confined space, or, we can do a lot with some of the rope bags and stuff off our trucks, but at what point you say, because of the nature of the incident, like, we're gonna need a squad, or we're gonna need a lot of equipment? Is there a,
Immediately.
okay,
If you hear, I mean, and that's part of the issue right now with some of our response matrix, is there's, not all the apparatus we would need on some incidents are built into that matrix. If you hear a confined space go out, call for it immediately,
Okay.
get it rolling that way. Because the reality, I mean, unless we have some sort of other artificial high point, and the one at St. Luke's, we actually used a skylift, which we were comfortable with the capacity that we had off of that, to be able to set up our artificial high point and our rope systems back to the front axles on that, but we had that elevated up over the hole, and so that was our change direction, our artificial high directional. But I would get it rolling just because we have so much specialty equipment with the spec pack on there. We have reef sleeve that we have lifting capabilities. We've got some newer reef sleeves through the department. Some we shouldn't be hoisting with, some we should. We've written on all the ones that we shouldn't be that said do not hoist. But I would get it rolling just for equipment.
and for you guys here at Threes, is that where you wanna keep the truck for its, maybe some of its capabilities, and the people in the pumper or company from the pumper will go to the
We'll either
squad,
do that,
or-
and for us, it kind of depends on our engineers and stuff. We may end up just rolling the whole company and just throw one of the engineers on the squad to chase us with that.
Okay.
And just bring everybody.
Yeah, for
And if we hear something going out, they expect us just to kind of self-assign on that too. We
Yeah.
try to monitor. I actually have, and I've got the squad on my first due alert, so even tonight, if the squad gets added to something, it should alert. But yeah.
Very good. Nope, that's all.
Yeah, but no,